Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to do a spoiler-free review for A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay. This is an historical fantasy standalone and Guy Gavriel Kay as an author has been recommended to me countless times. Now, all of you were right, I absolutely adored this book. It was in my top 10 of 2022 video, so of course this was a major hit and I do think that Guy Gavriel Kay might become one of my new favorite authors. However, I do not think that this is a book that would work for everybody, and that is why I want to do the review, of course. Now, I have only read this one book by him. I'm definitely not an expert. I cannot compare this towards the other ones, but from what I have been told, Guy Gavriel Kay writes a lot of historical fantasy, where he is heavily inspired by real-life events that actually happened in history. He uses that as an influence to tell his story in a secondary world. Now, that does mean that all of his standalones, as well as the duologies and the trilogies that he has written, are interconnected, because all of them take place in that world and all of them have an effect on each other. And it also means that you cannot just start with any random book that he has written, because for some of them you do require prior knowledge that you can find in other books. However, A Brightness Long Ago is one of those books that you can start with, and I would actually very much advise everybody to do it, because I really enjoyed this one, and I also think that there are snippets that make you very excited to pick up another book by him. Now, this one takes place or is heavily influenced or inspired by 15th century Italy, and then more specifically the rivalry between two mercenaries. Now, the story starts where you have an old man telling you his life story. If you know me, you know that there are a couple of things that I absolutely adore in books, and that is somebody telling you his life story and a coming-of-age book. And this is a combination of the two, because that old man is telling you his life story, but the story starts when he is a young man. He's working in a castle, and because of the events that happen in this castle, he comes in contact with both of these mercenaries over the course of this book. What I really enjoyed here is that this POV is told in first person, while the other POVs that you meet are told in third person. And this very clearly tells you that this young man is a spill figure. He is the one that is going to have effects or is going to be an effector in this story. And I really, really enjoyed that. I also think that this is seamlessly done, switching from first person to third person. I also think that the writing style is different between those two. I know that Guy Gavriel Kay has often been recommended to fans of Robin Hobb. That's actually why a lot of people recommended this author to me, because I am a major Robin Hobb fan. But I actually think that especially this book is very well fitting for fans of Jacqueline Carey's writing style as well. And especially that first-person POV was told in the exact same writing style. It had the same level of melancholy, of looking back, of the sense of foreboding, the flowery writing style of just using a little bit more words than needed to make a sentence absolutely perfect. And I love that. I love when you have that person telling you his life story and he says, if I knew then what I know now, but alas, I didn't. If I knew the events that were going to take place, I would have just enjoyed the time that I had. But I didn't. And then you know that something is going to happen and you just feel for that person. And that's exactly what happened in the POVs of this one young man, this spill figure. Now, as I said, there are definitely multiple POVs, and the other ones are not as flowery, not as foreboding. However, I really liked the writing style there a lot as well. It's definitely not a direct writing style, but it was more direct than that one first-person POV. And I think that the other POVs were more similar to what we would see in Robin Hobb's books. But I enjoy both writing styles, so I do think that this one is top-notch. Now, I also think that maybe the comparison to Robin Hobb is there because in this one, at the very least, not a lot happens. The plot is really the rivalry between these two mercenaries. And I think that this is more a glue book, if that makes sense, where you can see the connections to the other books that he has written. There are a lot of mentions of figures that play a big role in these other books, I suppose. There is a lot of mentions of Sarantium, which in this secondary world is basically a constitute for Jerusalem. And there is a mention of a lot of people who went to Jerusalem or to Sarantium to fight this holy war. So this makes me excited to pick up other books by him because I want to know what happened there. This is just a snippet of the history of the secondary world. Very much like if you would read about the history of our own world and then you keep digging and finding other things and other stories that you want to know more of. Now, what I really liked here as well are the multiple POVs. One of the things that I also really just enjoy in fantasy is if you have a very posh and elite society and you have these gentlemen and these ladies and they almost look harmless because they look weak. They look like they put elegance and fashion above all else. And when they talk to you, they will use all the proper etiquette and the proper forms and they will do the things that are meant to be done in a certain way. So nothing really wrong here, but you can see the veiled threats. And if you read this, you can see that they are absolutely deadly and they are very dangerous. And I love that. That is something that you also see, by the way, in the Kashyyyl trilogy by Jacqueline Carey. You also see that in the Dandelion Dynasty a little bit. And this is just one of my favorite tropes. And you very much have this here, where you have the elite society and they talk to each other and they are very respectful towards each other. But if something goes wrong, they will try to kill each other the very next moment. Absolutely adored that, loved the political intrigue, which is top-notch, and of course you can expect that because it is heavily inspired by actual history, by actual politics. Now, what I also really want to mention here is that I like the themes that were explored. For example, when you have one of the POV characters, they might have a small interaction with a character that you don't even know. It can be an innkeeper, and normally in another book, you would have that conversation, you would have that small snippet of seeing the innkeeper, but you continue following that POV character. However, in this one, we almost see what happens if there would be a butterfly effect. And you just have one page where the author goes to that innkeeper and he says, well, after that small comment from our POV character, that innkeeper continued to go westward instead of north. And that led him to this, and that had a very big effect on the entire world. And that is just a great way to make you focus on secondary characters, not even secondary character, on side characters, on just a small mention of an innkeeper or of somebody who works at a bar. And even though normally you would just glance over that, now you're reading this and you think, is this going to have an effect? Am I going to have the next page be about what this person is going to become later on? It just makes you extremely engaged in the story. Now, what also happens is that POV characters might die. Characters that you come to care about might die. And I really enjoy this because it's not done for shock factor. It is done in a way that it's realistic and it makes sense. And you can see the effect that this has on the other characters. And it also makes you very much aware that if you get introduced to a new character, that character might become a main character, but he might as well just die. You don't really see the difference when you get introduced, and I like it when an author can do that. And that is then very reminiscent for me to George R. R. Martin, where anything can happen, but it's not for shock factor, it is realistic, and there also happen a lot of good moments here. So it is the not really knowing and it being in balance that I really enjoyed here. Now, in terms of magic, there is no magic. The magic here is extremely minimal. As I said, some people might die. These might be minor characters, these might be very major characters, and maybe there might be a little bit of information about is there an afterlife or not. That's it. If you're looking for magic systems, if you're looking for magical or fantastical animals, if you're looking for wizards, that's not this. This is almost historical fiction, with the only difference that this is in a secondary world, that these characters, although they are heavily inspired by actual real-life characters, have been given another name, and that there is some freedom, of course, with what the actual events were. But other than that, this reads almost like historical fiction, with small snippets that are fantasy-esque, but definitely not magic, in my opinion. So, I think that this is perfect. I think that even though a lot of people recommend this to fans of Robin Hobb, I agree with that. I would also recommend it to fans of Jacqueline Carey just because of the writing style, the political intrigue, but also the low magic system. And especially if you do not like the BDSM that is in Jacqueline Carey's books, and if you do not like that whimsical writing style and that flowery writing style the entire time, then I think that this would be a very nice balance between that more whimsical writing style and that slightly more direct writing style that Robin Hobb uses, for example. I do not think that you need to pick this up if you want magic system, if you want to have a very clear and hard plot, because like I said, that's almost not present here. You want to explore the themes and you want to get to know those characters, and you want to use this almost as a way to get into this world and to basically explore the other novels. And I think that maybe the other novels have a little bit more plot. This one does not. But I still really enjoy it, so I highly recommend it if any of this sounds interesting to you. So I really hope that you are going to pick up this book if it does sound interesting to you. If you have some recommendations, which ones I should read next after this small introduction to Guy Gavriel Kay works, definitely let me know as well. If you want to see my non-spoiler review for Kashyyyl's Dark by Jacqueline Carey, you can watch that one right here. As always, I hope that you enjoyed this video, that it was helpful to make you decide if you want to pick up a book by Guy Gavriel Kay, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!